Okay, we'll call our work session to order. First order of business is an interview with Sandy. Sandy Ward, why don't you have a seat down there? Sandy is applying for a position on the Parks Advisory Committee. Welcome.
Hi.
Very simple, informal chat.
Well,
Tell us about yourself, why you want to.
iPads if you don't.
that's okay.
Yeah. Why do you want to volunteer for Parks Advisory Committee?
Well, I wanted enough to leave my extended family on the beach and stop digging a hole with my 2-year-old great nephew, which is where I was about. I think I got most of that off of me. But thank you for your consideration. I met with Seamus and Spencer about a month ago, and I feel like I've lived here for about 5 minutes, but it's almost 2 years. And I bought my house in 2017, and I was still teaching and working on Oahu to pay for it. So I'm excited to be here, and there's lovely people that I've met, but I'm still not very connected. So I was asking questions about the parks on the north side. I live right by the old high school. My house is about the size of this table, but I like it. And I was asking about the parks, and I was saying, you know, I love what I did for most of my life was take my students outside and do stewardship with them. And that was community building. And then you're also serving the needs of the community, and we did it through digging in the dirt. And he wisely suggested when I said, well, the community could help create the park, you know, in the property that's the high school next to those apartments. And so he said, there's an opening on the Parks Committee. And I like that because I don't like pointing to other people and saying you do it. I think from what I've seen in this community, and I'm substituting now as I'm a 40-year veteran school teacher, and retirement was boring. So I love substituting. I started in January, and I think those kids could be helping, and that's what I love to do. So I looked at the strategic blueprint and went, wow, more community engagement and get people outside doing recreation. I went, oh. And I would be honored to do what I can. Obviously, when you've lived here as short a time as I have, I just have a lot to learn, but I looked up what's been happening with that park committee, and I looked at who was on it, and I thought, wow, I could learn from them. But I'd be really interested in seeing what the community survey was. The community was surveyed about what they wanted in their parks. And I'd just rather help than say, you guys do it. So I think it would be wonderful for me to meet people. My idea of recreation is digging in the dirt and planting things and doing it with a bunch of kids and their parents and their grandparents, and I think we could really get stewards at every park and work with the city. But that's my dream. I kind of want to find out more about what the community wants. So I feel like the Parks Committee is, selfishly I want to do the dirt, but I also want to find out what the community wants for their parks and kind of what they're willing to do to help make that happen. So
David's our liaison to that committee. You want to answer that?
I'm sorry?
You want to answer?
What do the people
question?
want?
Yeah.
Well,
What do people want?
they always want more parks, and they always want them well maintained, and I know that Public Works is in the process of doing that. We have an interesting setup in our community in that the recreation piece of the parks that is typically part of the Parks Department is a separate taxing district, separate organization.
Sunset Empire.
And so the Parks Committee kind of guides the direction and gives feedback on things that need to be done
Well,
in the parks.
I see folks at the estuary picking up all the time, so you've got a great crew, but I still think that you just said 3 different, like, school kids and the Sunset Empire and the Public Works, and I think it's all about building networks too, because when you do it together, I taught school on Oahu for 25 years, just moved back from that after half my life, and it's a wise saying called O'Hehana Nui Kialuia, and it means no task is too big when done by all. So I just think instead of saying public works people who I see busting their tail, you guys can do some things that we can't, but we can pull weeds and keep things nice and pick up rubbish and honestly, those like community work days, community gatherings, that's a great way to meet your neighbor, and kids at the high school can get their community service, get those college scholarships and so forth. So one thing I saw, Parks Master Plan, but it's from 2018. So I think I did that survey for the park on the north side, and I kind of have ants in my pants. Let's go. Let's get that park. But I appreciate what's been done, and I never liked someone coming in when I was teaching school and telling me how to, you've been in my school for 2 minutes and they're going to tell us how to do it. So I have ideas and I'm excited, but I appreciate what's been done. And Neil Main was someone that I met when I was 22 at the old Hatfield Marine Science Center, and he said, best advice I have for you new teachers, and boy, that was my first year, he said, have kids do real things. And then to find out that his kids built that estuary overlay, the estuary overlook that I go to every night, cleaned it up, and then I meet a teacher on Oahu who's doing a school garden with a friend. She was one of those kids. She's a school teacher now, and her parents just live on 4th and Holiday. So I don't know if I'll live long enough to have a story like that, but I think you really get to know the community when you work, serve. And I looked at the different committees, and I don't have that much expertise, but gathering people and working outside, herding the kids, making sure everybody's safe. That was what I started and ran a nonprofit after I retired from teaching. So we cleared 13 acres of mangrove together and restored Hawaiian fish ponds, and that I can help with. So I do have that to offer. And I would be excited to serve on this committee.
Sounds great. Have you had the opportunity to go to any of the Parks Advisory Committee meetings?
No, I just started looking at the minutes. The July one was canceled. And then there was a big event, and I was getting skin cancer treatment on my face and was supposed to stay inside. That hurt, but it's done. And my dad had red hair and freckles, so if it prevented another surgery on my end of my nose, I was good with that. So Nancy, I kind of inquired through Kim and said, I'd love to know a little bit more if you have time for coffee, and she had family visiting from the East Coast, so just an email. But I looked at the strategic plan, and like I said, I looked at who I would serve with, Googled everybody, and I was like, wow, whoa, folks I could learn a lot from.
And I see that you already volunteer with the North Coast Land Conservancy and the Nikanaka Watershed Council.
Do some Weed Warrior Wednesdays, and that's another humbling experience because people there have a decade on me, and I have to just keep up. so that was really humbling. They can clear blackberry like nobody's business, but I just helped with cans for coho at the volleyball tournament last year. I got a new knee in October, so it kind of sidelined me for a bit. It was more of a job than I knew. But I'm meeting with them on August 6th. One of the things I met with Seamus about was what's involved in having a community paddle and stewardship event down the Nikanaka. So I found out they did it, the Tualatin River Keepers does it, and that's another way that they gather community and recreate. And I thought, gosh, what would that involve? And I wanted some answers because I'm meeting with the Nikanaka Watershed Council on August 6th. Try to see if we can whip that up.
Well, the big difference is gonna be the tides.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I live on the river down at the south end of town, so you gotta plan which way you're going and when.
I'm the idiot that had to walk her kayak back because she wasn't watching the estuary. That, you might have seen me, that was, yeah.
What brought you to live in Seaside?
Grew up in Beaverton, all 12 years, Beaverton High School, class of 79. Portland's terrifying now. And this is where we went to the beach when I was a little kid. I love Seaside. I was 5 and it's the first place I ever saw the Pacific Ocean. So this felt like home. My father was in Tillamook for 20 years and I love Tillamook, but we're smaller. We'll know everybody here, you know. I know the folks at the grocery store here, and it's just the right size for me. And honestly, it was a house I could afford too. So that little row of houses on 17th Avenue, that's just my size. And I saw it on Zillow when I was on Oahu, and I still had to work a few more years to help pay for it. But I love Seaside, and to me, kind of Astoria to Tillamook's your backyard. And how much fun my family's having here this week. So I like it to be a place where families can have fun and feel safe and have plenty to do, so they have a reason to visit Auntie Sandy. Seaside's a good spot for that.
Sure is.
Well, we'll talk more about this during the council meeting later on and see if we make a decision one way or the other.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your
Do you have any other questions
consideration.
for us, though?
I had a lot for Nancy. I know, I was worried, I didn't know the procedure, so I was here the last meeting and that's just where your nomination is accepted, so I apologize. But I already reached out to Nancy to kind of get, like, what do I need to do to get running on the ground? And because of the July meeting was canceled and there wasn't agenda items, I assume that, I know one goal is to get stewards for every park, but I'll want to hear what they're currently working on before I jump in with ideas. But I want to meet with someone before the first meeting so that I can contribute more, and I know when that is. So first Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. I can do that. I was worried at first because my family lives other places and they're important to me. So, but if I know advance notice of when big events are, of course I'll be here. So I asked if there was a calendar out, and there's not. And so that, if we all had a crystal ball, I'd love to know that answer. But
Like a good idea.
I appreciate your consideration and your time. And I thought, gosh, if someone with more experience in this town applies, I understand. I'll just go to the dig in the dirt events. But I will be leaving.
Never feel like you have to be a member of a committee to show up to the meetings and contribute.
That's for sure.
I was here when we were talking about censoring books. So, and you guys were very patient because I remember being tongue-tied and I was surprised. I'm a teacher, but I was nervous when I testified. So this was a nice body to talk to. And the only reason I'm extra wiggly is because I'm making dinner for 12 people in about 20 minutes.
Well, I better get going.
Wow.
We can make that 19.
You guys can take a little longer, maybe we'll order pizza.
But the good thing is you can get anywhere you want to get in Seaside, at least I can, in about 5 to 7 minutes.
Amen. No, thanks again for your time.
No, even then I did.
You made it not scary.
Good.
Good deal.
Appreciate it.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Thanks for the suggestion.
Absolutely.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay,
How
Kevin?
many openings do we have on that committee? Just one?
Just one. Kevin? So Kevin, last meeting, and
He's
that was
back.
the
Hello
Community Center Commission,
Glutton for
and then
punishment.
we appointed him to that, and now he's back, also applying for the Planning Commission.
Absolutely. don't want to be too repetitive. I don't know what you remember of what I said last time. I think I spoke mostly about what I've been involved with in the community here. As far as the Planning Commission goes, it's a very exciting prospect for me. Being able to be, a part to help guide short and long-term development of the city of Seaside, with also keeping an eye on business, new business, what the people that actually live here need. And, of course, the bread and butter of the tourist industry. I grew up in tourist towns. So in that respect, I understand really the balance between the people that live here and the people that visit. And I understand how important it is to get viewpoints from the public. And that's another thing I'm very excited about. Of course, I have my own idea about things, and the more I get involved, the more I talk to other folks that are involved in the city, the more I learn. Being a bank manager, I interact with a lot of our business owners and a lot of the people that live and work here day to day. And I see the different viewpoints, and I see balance. I see, there's a lot of way to balance what these two entities want, again, without taking the eye off the fact that this is a tourist town, and there are things that need to be addressed there. So I'm a voracious reader. It's not intimidating to me at all to have to read up on policy, existing laws.
About this thick.
I know, I'm excited. And to get that all down as well. I love to learn. So in addition to that, I don't have to be right. I'm good at playing well with others. I have a tendency to state my point of view through questions. It's a good way for me to learn and also for people to understand where I'm coming from. And I don't take things personally, which I think, especially with this commission, is probably pretty important. So, yeah, planning caught my eye, and I'm happy to be considered.
Have you had the opportunity to attend one of the planning commission meetings?
I have watched quite a few.
Oh, yes.
Yes. No, I have.
Different ways to attend, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good
So yeah,
job.
I've watched quite a few.
Mhm.
I had a chance to go through and read minutes and agenda packets back to the beginning of 2023. So
That's exciting.
again, I like to read and I like to learn. I like to understand how things work. So I don't take things on willy-nilly.
Any questions? Since we did just see him a couple weeks ago, yeah.
That's right.
I'm assuming nothing has changed since
It's
then.
not a big change.
And you feel confident that between working full-time and being on this other committee as well as the museum, you have room to do this?
Absolutely. Yeah, first Tuesday, 6 o'clock. I can make that work, yes. I have the time and, as I think I spend most of my free time anyway, reading and learning, and so that wouldn't be a problem either. I've fit it well into my schedule.
Yeah, I would just say that the planning commission, aside from the council, is definitely the most important board, committee, commission we have, because you're making, quasi judicial decisions. So it's definitely important to read, take the time to go through the packet, but it sounds like you're happy to do that. So.
Absolutely. Like I said, I look forward to it.
It's an interesting commission because it is very much about interpreting the laws as opposed to trying to impose any particular direction or thought.
Right.
So it's very different than some of the other boards or committees where people have ideas and try and move them forward. The planning commission is very much about taking what is there and making sure it's applied fairly.
I'd say when done correctly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would hope so.
Done correctly so that when it comes to us, we know it's okay and it won't come back to us again.
Right.
Right.
Do you have any questions for us?
Well, I think I got my questions out last time. I was racking my brain for something new, but no, I don't think I have anything new for you. Yeah, no, nothing off the top of my head here, and nothing I was thinking about for the last week, so.
Kevin, I have a question. This May 2007 incident, disturbance of use by telephone,
Yes.
how was that adjudicated? Did you pay a fine? What happened with that?
No, I mean, I went in front of a magistrate. I had slap on the wrist, 6 months informal probation.
Okay,
Yeah,
but no fine or anything, no jail time, nothing like that? Okay.
nothing like that. Like I said last time, it was a very silly incident that was,
Looks like maybe you were at a Coldplay concert.
there we go. I was at a party, and yes, I was young and stupid. And yeah,
And now you're not as young and you've learned. Good.
Okay, well, that's it.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
We'll discuss it at the council meeting.
All right.
All right, we have time to discuss what we'll be discussing later in the meeting. Spencer, you want to come down and join us?
Yeah.
Make a few comments about the changes since the original.
We lost Jeff. Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. It's been a productive last couple of weeks. We were able to meet with Viviana, who's back in town, to coordinate the camp. And we are looking to open the camp. Jeff, when are we planning to open the camp? Is it next week?
What's that?
What's our opening day for the camp?
Public Works told me it was the first week of August, around like the 5th.
Maybe it's been announced that
That would be next week.
Yes, okay. I thought it was next week. I was like, I don't think it's this week. So we will we will open the new camp, assuming everything is approved tonight, August 5th, that's a Tuesday. And then the last day to be in the camp at the end of the day, I believe on Thursday. So that will give full 3 days for individuals to move. The updated policy that we're going to be discussing tonight reflects the feedback that you all gave at the last meeting, as well as some of the concerns that Clats of Community Action had. So we met with Kenny Hansen, we met with Viviana, and pretty much we were on the same page. So if I go back to some of the concerns that were raised, first and foremost, the one was we had removed the prohibition on the possession, that's the word I'm looking for, possession of drugs and alcohol. So that is back in the policy. However, the policy is still focused on behavior rather than the possession. So it'll be a camp rule that you can't have drugs or alcohol, but that doesn't mean we're searching people when they come in or searching their tents or anything like that. But that remains a tool that we can use as needed if it comes up. The emphasis will be on behavior, meaning if someone is threatening someone else and they happen to have drugs in their possession, I think the emphasis on enforcement will be on the threatening behavior rather than the possession. But it's a tool in the belt that either CCA or the police department can use as they see fit and what's best for the current circumstances. And one of the reasons we did it that way with behavior first is I think it will better protect the city that our policy and our regulations are objectively reasonable. So if we're going to have the rule, no drugs in the camp, we want to make it as objectively reasonable as possible. So in order to do that, we want to emphasize behavior rather than possession. I think one of the main reasons for that is to more clearly focus on the behavior rather than what someone may try to argue is their person or who they are or something like their status, or something like that. So that's first and foremost is focusing on the behavior. The second part is I removed references to zero tolerance policies. Now, there are certainly things an individual could do that would lead to an immediate expulsion and possibly a permanent one from the camp. However, the tools available both to CCA, to the police department in terms of the camp for things like drug possession or any other rule violation include warnings before a suspension. It also can include shorter suspensions followed by longer ones. So instead of someone being caught with an unauthorized, one pill and a permanent expulsion from the camp, that likely wouldn't be held up as objectively reasonable. So they will be able to use warnings to show that we've been working with people. Maybe the behavior, the possession, or whatever it is, results in a 2-day suspension from the camp, and that's different. That escalates for future violations, and so that's something that both CCA and the police department can use to the extent they think it meets the needs of the group, and then also that it's consistent with treatment and similar circumstances for other people in the camp. And I think that's the way to protect the city in terms of claims against the city, but also carry out what both the city council and the Classic Community Action thinks is best for the camp. Any questions or discussion, anything we want to talk about in terms of kind of drug and alcohol and zero tolerance policy?
I guess my question is, I see a lot of policies in here now that are not being enforced, whatnot, in the current situation. How are we going to go about the process of ensuring these people know what the expectations are in the new location and being in a position that we are going to enforce it?
You're right to be concerned. I think we're all concerned. We don't want to carry some of the issues we've had at the current camp to the new location. So a couple of things. One, having Classic Community Action on site definitely changes things, and the amount of time dedicated at the site will change things. I think the layout of the site and how it's been designed will be easier to manage, where we hope to reduce the influence of, say, outsiders coming into the camp, whereas that hasn't been something previously that really could be enforced. We think we can better do that at the new site. In addition to that, at the current site, it's just, there's not enough room for each camper. We couldn't designate the sites the way we had intended to or wanted to originally. So I think having clear expectations for each camper and then having some accountability for their specific area is one of the ways. I know Kenny's already been working with, and so has Paul, been working with the campers at a current location to help them understand the rules. In fact, Kenny called me today with a question that one of the campers has and was concerned about. And so they're already educating them, bringing them up to speed. Prior to coming into the camp, they will be reviewing the camp, going over the camp rules with them, providing them a copy, and then we will also have rules posted throughout the site. So the rules are there. I think we will have a better plan to try to stay on top of it, maybe, and not get behind, if that makes sense.
I'm glad to hear you say that the rules are there and how they're going to be disseminated, because that was a question I had, because the only reference to the dissemination of the rules seems to be a website and going out onto the internet to see it. So because you have said that, and that's the way it's gonna be, I would think that it would be really important for us to indicate that these are gonna be posted, and they're gonna be given, a copy will be given to each person. I think that's important for our protection as well.
So I think we can certainly add it to the policy. To me, that was more of a procedure and how we operate, which the procedures aren't really in here. This is more the rules, but if you want to add that,
But this is what
there's
the
no reason we
public
can't.
reads. This is what the public reads, and so,
Well, and I think there are things in here, obviously everything in here will pertain to our campers. However, the site-specific rules are in particular importance to them, meaning there are things in here for each of the service providers, there's things here for our staff, and so not everything pertains to everyone. And so while they will have a copy of this, what will be emphasized to them is the specific rules and the specific policies that pertain to them and while they're in the camp and things like that. That's where we want to
In here,
spend our time
to
emphasizing.
the campers, there is a specific mention that the campers have to be familiar with chapter 102. Is that going to be posted? And if so, instead of relying on them going to the city website, which they may not be able to navigate to get to in order to familiarize themselves with that, is that going to be posted? If so, I'd like to see it added in that it's going to be physically posted there.
So, I mean, it's a chapter of our ordinance, and so in my mind, it doesn't really make sense to post a whole bunch of pieces of paper. We can provide a copy to each one and have a shared copy in the trailer. I mean, the purpose is to have them access to it, but also part of this is, I don't think there's gonna be very much in the ordinance that will be as important to them as the camping rules themselves. So that's where we want to emphasize, but it'll all be available to them.
Posted inside the trailer would
that would be good.
be sufficient.
Why not have a laminated copy outside where they can, they almost self-report? So if they see someone breaking the rules, they can go to the.
But again, the ordinance doesn't really have the rules. The rules are in the policy. And so what we'll have.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the ordinance, the
Yeah,
rules.
I think
for
that's
the
what they were
campers.
talking about, the
Okay.
ordinance. So the rules, I anticipate having a big metal sign at a couple different locations that I've already been working on it, because there's a lot in here and trying to condense it down to say, these 12 things has to do with, pets and what can or can't be in there, cleaning up, hygiene, sanitation, those kinds of things.
And I'd also like to see a sign on Avenue B that says, "No visitors, you will be."
I already have the
prosecuted."
drafts if you want to see
Yeah,
them.
Well, awesome.
yeah, and I think that's one of the things with the Avenue V, the parking by permit only is actually the way that it would go, is because there are gonna be people who are permitted. It doesn't say anywhere here where those people would get permits, except that it has to be coordinated through CCA. Seems to me it would be.
Permits for what?
Well,
Partner
for the partners that are
Oh.
helping, it seems to me that it would be easy and very visible if they were issued a permit to put in their car window.
I
So
would assume
that's-
CCA would administer
Yeah,
that.
so,
It doesn't make any suggestion of that at all. It just says that they'll coordinate it. And also, I would want to make sure that the people who park there incorrectly are given parking tickets.
yeah, so I think this goes back to, again, the intention of this is a policy, not a procedures, meaning this doesn't outline how you do everything. So the intention would be our service providers would see the policy and say, hey, can I get a permit? And they're given one. So chief already has the permits, and he's gonna have a stack of them for CCA to be able to utilize and hand out. It's just, there's not really going to be a way to detail the how about everything, because
I understand that, but I know from talking to people even about silly little things. So, for a long time, we had nothing on the prom that said you can't, you can't, what was it? Skateboard, you're not supposed to skateboard. Okay, if I would stop somebody and say, you know, you're not supposed to skateboard. Where's the sign? Where's the sign? You can't make me not skateboard.
Well, I'd say that's a rule, and the rules are in here, it's the procedure. So we have a rule that says you can't park here with a permit, but we're not gonna say, this is where you get it, because that could change. We may have it in many locations, yeah.
It has to say it. One of the things I did notice is that we had a long discussion about lockers and providing someplace safe. What happened to all that? Because that's not anywhere.
So again, that's not a policy, so we are investigating different lockers that, well, I wouldn't even call them lockers, because what we have determined is that lockers rust, and they will be on like that. What we're really talking about is some sort of lockable storage, and we're still in the process of researching what works and what doesn't work, because it's gonna have to be something that is very weather tolerant, and so we don't have that recommendation yet.
Will that be brought back to us before?
I would say only if you want to see it, but if the intention is to have lockable storage, I mean, we can move forward with that.
I have a question that's not addressed on here, and something that we've talked about in the past regarding the camp is eligibility for the camp. And it doesn't say here that somebody can't just come to town one day and say, I'm gonna go camp in the city camp.
I think it does
Kinda
say
did.
that.
It said you had to be a seaside
It says you have to be
So-
for Seaside, and that's very ambiguous.
So, and there's a reason for that. So the answer is,
We can't say.
right, if someone just
Right.
shows up and says, I'm
Exactly.
homeless, I wanna camp here, we can't have a policy that says you'll be turned away. Now, if we are full and we say, sorry, we're full, and they move on, great. If they're around, then we're gonna find a place for them in the camp, whether it's the temporary overflow or something like that. I think we will work with the circumstances. But certainly, that's the interesting thing is, someone could be hitchhiking along the coast. The minute they step into Seaside, if they're homeless, the responsibility is the same as whether or not they were here, you know, compared to someone that's here for 20 years. And so that's what the law says, and so we're trying to work within that. And I think that's the other purpose of having the temporary permit is, realistically, they're not gonna come to the camp and say, I need a spot. They're gonna set up another camp somewhere else. The police are gonna find them, and they're gonna say, here's your permit for tonight only to go in the camp. And if they really are traveling through, the hope is that they continue to travel through. If they're local, then we would work with them like any other camper.
Spencer, could I go back to the drug and alcohol for a second? Because you said about the how piece of it. So in my mind, we are saying the possession of illegal drugs, and let me just start with that, is prohibited on site. It feels a little bit like that's the policy, but then we go on to explain the how. We're going to not enforce that policy and the caveats to not enforcing that policy.
Let's go through that together maybe, and let me just.
It feels to me like you can't, we're saying possession is illegal. If you have it and you're being nice, it's okay. If you are threatening someone and you have a little bit, it's, you know what I'm saying? I'm making those up for purposes of my example.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that
Well,
section.
and even in the one spot where it says you might be excluded from the camp, it says all different for different kinds of behavior, but it doesn't say for dissemination behavior.
What concerns me is that by having this many words in this part of the policy and too much of the how, it locks us in versus giving us the ability to.
So yeah, let's go through it.
Or
So,
locks us out
Or locks
because
us
it's
out.
ambiguous.
Correct.
so let's go through it. And Chief, do you want to come join us?
Number 3, the 4th bullet point.
Yeah, we're on page 4, right?
And there's 2 spots where it is actually. There's
Okay, so under major policy violations, 3 behavioral violations, the 4th bullet says drug and alcohol use and possession. So the possession, use, or distribution of illegal drugs, alcohol, or drug paraphernalia is prohibited on site. This rule is intended to promote a safe, healthy, and stable environment for all participants. Good so far?
where-
That's all we need.
Tell me where you're.
This is page 61 in the.
So then it goes on to say, however, the enforcement actions will prioritize behavior over status if a participant is found in possession of drugs or alcohol but is not engaging in disruptive, threatening, or unsafe behavior, staff will issue a warning or take other appropriate non-punitive steps in accordance with the program's progressive discipline process. So this is what it's saying is you will likely get warnings before you're kicked out of the program.
You're not kicked out immediately.
But this,
Right.
but this again is a how. How, you know,
So
just,
this-
just like we have a
However,
speeding
Right.
violation.
Also, without going into too much, this how is the protection to the city based on the legal advice we've received.
Tell me this, if there was a sign at the camp with the rules, would it just stop with that first
Yeah,
paragraph? Or would it say, however?
no. So the however is to say, when someone says, hey, I was kicked out for doing drugs, that's not reasonable. It's, no, per our policy, you were given these warnings, you had a temporary suspension, we did all these things and you still weren't agreeing to abide by the rules, and that's why you have this 6-month or 12-month suspension or something like that. And so this is, I mean, we can't take it out. This is purposely in here to protect our ability to have this rule, I guess.
To
is
have
what
this
I'm
be
saying.
objective.
Yeah.
I would want to add, though, the participant found in possession of drugs and alcohol but is not engaging in disruptive, threatening, or unsafe behavior. Dissemination behavior doesn't fit in disruptive, threatening, or unsafe. So this would not include, it basically, by default, it says if they're selling, we're not gonna bother them.
I don't know why you.
I think the
would
first
say-
bullet point is very clear, says it's illegal. I mean, it's against the rules. You can't distribute drugs.
Except that there's the however, will prioritize behavior over status. And
So-
Right, I
selling
think that
a
that is,
behavior.
that is, I mean, that is.
Selling is
Behavior.
Outside of the camp, would possession be
disruptive.
considered a behavior?
No, it's not.
Possession?
Yes. Or would it be considered a status?
I don't know if it's classify or define it either way. I mean, you just are. Distribution is a
When it
behavior.
comes to your ability to enforce possession laws,
I didn't catch it.
when it comes to your ability to enforce someone being in possession, is it a status or a behavior?
I guess maybe a behavior. I mean, you're possessing and.
But I will say, I don't think that's how you enforce the law out there. This is a camping specific thing, not a
And this
drug enforcement
policy
thing.
is about whether you're gonna keep them in camp or not. That doesn't mean we're not enforcing and arresting them.
Exactly.
It just means that, okay, you've been arrested for possession, now you're also getting a warning from our
To
camp.
me,
that
this
you can't
creates
do
a
that.
cartel.
But the distribution is a little bit more than a possession, let's say, and that behavior may be enough to say, no, you're out of here on your first offense for distribution. And I'm not
that
saying that's
should
what
be
you're
included
doing.
In
but-
that bullet, that distribution,
Automatic removal.
as far as I'm
For
concerned, it
distribution.
is.
I think, I mean, we can do that. I'm trying to give you everything you've asked for and do it the best way, given the legal advice we've had to protect the city. So I think
can't
giving
imagine-
the officers the discretion based on the circumstances, should this person be kicked out or not, is better than deciding it right now at this meeting. That's my only advice.
I think
You
we have a
notice-
progressive discipline process that you've outlined here. I think referring to that is a good thing. However, we are locking ourselves into the what if it's this and what if it's that, and going into, in my opinion, too much detail about what our progressive discipline policy is.
Okay, I can take a crack at,
But I'm one opinion, right?
of updating it to preserve the intent, which is progressive, but without doing too many details that constricts our choices.
But
Simply get rid of the word however.
That does seem to be
I
what's
would
throwing
get
off a
rid
lot
of
of
that
people.
word. I would get rid of that word.
Linguistically, it removes everything before it anyways.
But, and there has to be some consistency. If one person is selling drugs and gets a slap on the wrist, and the next person is selling drugs and is kicked out, then that's.
So I'd say this is what our police officers deal with every single day in enforcing the law, is there are many factors. You have to be consistent, You have to take in the specific circumstances. And so that's why we will rely on both their judgment and the judgment of the CCA staff in order to juggle all of those different things that they need to do and not try to, dictate one course of action. But consistency is a high priority for any enforcement. Both for it to be, to stand up, but also just for it to be recognized as legitimate from the people. I mean, if the campers see it's not being followed consistently, that's going to lead to a pretty negative result.
That's why it's so important that right at the start of the new camp it be enforced, because this is our chance to basically right the wrong we've had for years and start really enforcing.
Even more than we would maybe in a few months.
Absolutely.
Just so that there is a whole change of whole paradigm shift in what we're
Absolutely.
I will say it's always easier to start strict and go easier, but that's not really our intent either. It's just go strict, stay strict.
Yes.
But again, like everything else, we will be learning as we go, and we want to be flexible, but we don't want the standard to drop. I think that's the main thing we've all seen, especially when it comes to drugs and when it comes to sanitary conditions. Those two things just we have to hold a higher standard.
To me, it really comes down to, is the city willing to remove and trespass people from the camp that don't follow the rules, even though that's going to create a whole another set of problems for us, but we have to be able to do that in order for people to take this serious. Because if we don't, they're not going to take it serious. People have to be removed if they don't follow the rules.
And the result is somebody's going to end up either somewhere else in the city or they're going to move somewhere else.
Which is going to cause us more problems, but I think we have to do that. We
Yeah.
have to.
And I think I agree with all that, and we want to be able to protect the city's decision-making ability to continue to do that. We don't want to be in a situation like other cities where that decision-making ability has been stripped from them.
Under the behavioral violations, so we're still on number 3 going up, there are 2 behaviors that aren't mentioned at all. One is stealing, and the other is entering someone else's tent without permission. If I were there living alone, I would want to know that I have that kind of protection and that people would get in trouble if they come into my tent without permission.
So if you go down to the next section 4, compliance with laws. So when it comes to the stealing, that's already taken care of. All participants are required to comply with local, state, and federal laws, as well as applicable City of Seaside ordinances.
Well, that would steal.
That's
stealing,
stealing.
but
Is
that's
going
not-
into a tent be considered burglary?
Yes.
No, not
Yes.
Trespassing.
It's a dwelling.
But I think I will say
I would think it could be
Yeah.
a burglary if the DA's office was
I will-
considered a dwelling.
But I will say this, we could specify it, and because that's probably one of those ones that's, even if it's technically covered here, making sure it's on a sign where the campers can see it, don't go in someone else's,
Like that.
uninvited or something like that. We
I know
can add that to a
specific issue
sign.
is covered by CCA's rules on site, and it's one that Kenny announced to the campers when he went out, I think it was Monday,
Yeah, and that's the campers who were there that day.
which was exceedingly few.
Mm-hmm.
Nonetheless, because
But if-
everybody who comes in has to sign
Yes.
an awareness of the rules, which knowing CCA's policies means that the staff is going to actively read the rules to the camper, not just hand them it and say, these are the rules for them to crumple up and throw away. It is something that's going to be covered and disseminated specifically.
Isn't one of the main issues we have now is people are afraid to leave their campsite without taking all their stuff because they're afraid their stuff's gonna be stolen?
That's where the lockable storage
That's
comes
why we
in.
need lockable.
But at the same
storage.
time, if people know they cannot go into other
Yes.
people's campsite, that's,
There's still 20
Yeah.
hours
10
a day.
commandments of
When there's
camp.
no staff there for 5 days a week and then another 2 days when there's no staff at all.
but the other ace in the hole we have here is we have cameras. So if someone has, their stuff missing, we could actually
That's
watch the camera.
148 hours a week to go through.
If someone
Well, I
left for
think
an
it's-
hour,
Someone
no,
says,
their
"I
stuff's
think
gone.
that's stolen, you could at least
In fact,
look.
Jeff, do you wanna
Give
come
footage.
give us a
They're saying
demonstration?
some logistical.
We're running out of
wrap
time.
up.
Oh, all right, maybe, short road, this is just the start of the discussion, right? We're gonna continue this during the meeting, but.
Because I still have stuff, not as much as I have had in the past, but I still have stuff.
Just give them an example of what we're seeing with the video cameras. That was the last week to get
Oh,
installed.
good.
I don't know if I can log, I don't know.
I was just show them here, just.
This is what we're looking at right here.
Nice.
So we got 4 cameras on it. Thanks to Ed Arden over at Public Works, he got all this put together. The entrance is here. This is actually a PTZ camera, so it can be manipulated 365 degrees, and it zooms in to where you can see the house numbers on the house across the highway.
Does Seaside PD have control of this, or who's controlling it?
Right now, there's just over at Public Works, but this is a simple login, and they can get it via the web
So
version.
CCA will have access to log in, police will, I will.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be a sign somewhere that says you're under
Smile, you're on
surveillance?
camera.
Yeah.
We talked about that. We were focusing on the other signs first, but we have talked about that one.
Yeah.
But you can
More for the visitors
For
that
those
aren't
of the
allowed.
council that hasn't been out to walk the camp, feel free to come by our office and we can take you out there. But this is what the sites look like completed. So they're, I think, 15 by 15. With these concrete blocks. These concrete blocks have a piece of rebar coming out of them to help pick them, but it also
Oh.
helps tie down any extra tarps or tents or anything to anchor things in place. You can't move these without a machine. They're heavy.
Clips on the front for their permits and.
Yeah, and then we've got water here, water at the other end. All of that has been put in. Everything's.
Is that a live shot?
Yes, this is live.
So we did not wind up getting anything to act as a barrier to prevent erosion under the water.
I talked with Paul about that, and they were gonna look at getting, I know you had mentioned,
AstroTurf seems.
yeah, something like that. I think
Convenient and.
they were gonna look
Added some
at options, like
Gutter
possibly,
bottom that you put on
possibly
the
like,
elevator.
there's some like rubber mats with big holes in them and stuff like that, but it's something like that,
That
yeah.
can be attached down.
I think this is between 8 and 12 inches of 3/4 minus gravel. It should drain pretty
Water
good.
moves gravel.
So it's pretty well compacted and there's a lot of
And
gravel
then
there to level it up.
where are the bathrooms?
They have not been installed
Where
yet.
will they be?
They will be over here in the corner.
And there will
That
be an
open area.
ADA, right?
As far as I know, yeah, it'll be. a
There's
similar
one
setup.
ADA and one non-ADA.
With trash storage right here in the middle, is the plan right now.
Also be in this, the mobile trailer front right.
Yep, clear up here is where the trailer will be for the CCA office.
Across from it.
I don't know, I haven't seen the layout as far as what they decided for a smoking area, and I know there's been discussions about on-site cooking too, and trying to find a
It says it
facilitator.
has to be in a specific
A
place.
place for that, so I think Ed and Paul are still kind of working on that.
Okay, thank you.
Be nice if it
We're
could be
adjourned.
covered.
They've specifically requested that if we don't cover it, it's
They're not
not
gonna.
gonna do anything
they're
to
not
have
gonna
it.
do it.
We appreciate that. Okay. Call this meeting of the City Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kim, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Counselor Hoffman?
Here?
Counselor Beneker?
Here.
Council President Morrissey?
Here.
Mayor Wright?
Here.
Counselor McVeigh?
Here.
Counselor Montero?
Present.
Counselor Pazalski?
Here.
Thank you.
All present and accounted for. We have a motion for approval of our agenda tonight.
Moved.
Second.
Council President Morrissey, Councilor McVeigh, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. No proclamations or recognitions tonight. For public comments, members of the public may use this time to provide comments to the City Council on items that are not scheduled on this agenda for public hearing or public comment. Speaking time is limited to 3 minutes. I don't have any notices that anybody signed up.
Wow.
So we will move on. Does any counselor wish to declare potential conflict of interest with anything on the agenda tonight? Hearing none, I have a motion for the approval of the consent agenda.
I would move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Council President Morrissey and Councilor Hoffman. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're moving right along tonight. Okay, tonight we have a special report from Providence Seaside Hospital. Rebecca Copland, Chief Executive, please come forward. You can sit right down here if you like, unless you want to stand.
If I can see everybody, thank you.
Welcome.
I appreciate the time this evening.
Make sure you speak into the mic so we can record it for everybody.
Will do. Thank you. Thank you for your time. As Mayor said, my name is Rebecca Copeland, the leader of the Providence Hospital. So I am here today to offer some comment on the hospital and to speak to the financial pressures and the impact that we're anticipating given the passage of the big, beautiful bill and how we're responding. But I first want to acknowledge that there recently was an article in the Historian published on July the 14th. And in this article, it described a study that was commissioned by the federal senators to look at the impact to rural health care of the bill should it pass. And one of the results and outcomes of this study was actually to indicate over 300 hospitals, rural hospitals, would be at a position of vulnerability given the proposals that are included in the bill. And I want to share with all of you that Providence Seaside Hospital was listed as one of 4 Oregon hospitals potentially at risk of closure if the bill were to pass. So once that became known and shared, I can assure you that I've had many concerned caregivers, many concerned community members. And so I'm here today to say that Providence does not have plans to leave the North Coast. We are committed to caring for this community. And I phrased that very carefully in saying that Providence would not leave the coast because it's important for our community to know that the hospital is owned by the district. The hospital is owned by the Union Health District, and Providence has been under an operating agreement for over 40 years. So I appreciate that we have several of our Union Health District members here today. Bob Moberg and Kathy Klezik are here, as well as Tina Montero. It is a privilege to serve the North Coast. And so again, I will be clear, Providence does not have an intention to leave the North Coast. But we are very concerned about the changes that are coming based on the bill and changes that are coming based on changes to Medicaid. And so I want to speak just briefly about what we are anticipating those to be and how we are planning to respond. The changes to Medicaid based on the bill are multi-layers, and they are going to roll out over many years. The first changes that we're going to start to see between now and 2027 are mainly related to enrollment and eligibility. We are going to see changes to timeframes for when people need to submit their enrollment application. We're going to see changes to work requirements, and this could be community service or a work requirement. And we are going to see changes to those who will qualify for Medicaid if they are undocumented. In the years following that, 2028 and beyond, that is when changes to how Medicaid is funded will begin to change. And that really is where many of the impact to reimbursement to payers is going to come into effect beginning in 2028. In Oregon, all hospitals are taxed. There is a provider tax that then gets pushed up to the federal level. It gets matched and it comes back down to the state to fund the Medicaid program. And I believe that of the state's budget, about 15% of the budget is funding the Medicaid program. There will be cuts to the provider tax, and so that will directly reduce the amount that our state has to fund Medicaid. It is anticipated that of the $1 trillion cut that is expected over 10 years to Medicaid, 340 billion of that will be based on that cut to the provider tax. Providence has been leaning in to assessing the impact of this to us, as are our other health system peers across the state. The governor's office is trying to understand the impact to the budget, the Oregon Health Authority, as well as the Hospital Association. But at this point in time, I can tell you that the reduction in payment to hospitals, including Providence Seaside Hospital, is very significant. Because of this, we will need to be looking to a future that might look a bit different for us. We will need to look at restructuring, and we will need to look at being very careful about the expenses that we have. But I want to reiterate, we are committed to the community, and we are committed to staying on the North Coast. And so I'll open to any questions.
Sure. Any questions? We talked about Rebecca's making a tour, so trying to get this word out, both of assurance and concern. Seaside, one of the reasons we moved here is because there was a hospital here that we were very familiar with from the Portland area, and so it's very important. And as I've mentioned many times, City of Seaside is a little bit of an older town. You'd mentioned that quite a bit of your income or your people that need your service are actually using Medicaid and Medicare. So this is a big concern, especially when we get to 2028.
I have a question. Typically when there's other services that are getting paid less of a reimbursement rate. For example, cash payers that come to the emergency room, those expenses are sent on to through insurance contracts and private insurance companies. Is that accurate?
Can you rephrase the question?
Yeah. So, for example, you have a certain amount of care that happens, for example, in the ER that doesn't get paid, but you still have the expenses coming in. So that changes the rate that you get reimbursed from private payers and private
correct.
insurance companies.
Sure.
So I would expect that in the future, as you guys make those adjustments, you'll make it up in what you're making on from the private payers and private insurance companies. So it'll drive those rates higher.
And I think you are describing very accurately the economics of healthcare right now.
Yeah.
Medicare and Medicaid do not pay what it costs to care for those patients. For us in Seaside, 55% of our patients are on Medicare, and about 20 to 25% of our patients are on Medicaid. And so based on that, with neither of those payers covering the costs to provide the care, yes, to be able to not be completely in the red, the costs are passed on to commercial insurers, and that is frankly the economics of healthcare.
And just to clarify, when you're talking about the cuts that you've talked about, those are Medicaid cuts, not Medicare cuts.
That is correct.
Even though we've brought up the term Medicare.
You are correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Could you address a little bit the importance of Seaside Providence Hospital in the Oregon Providence system?
Providence is committed to caring for the poor and vulnerable, and this has been our mission for over 170 years. So our founding sisters and our mission is to be in areas where we're in need. And we see that here in Seaside. We see that on the North Coast. We ended 2024 caring for the most patients we have ever cared for in our emergency department, in our inpatient settings, and in our clinics. So our community needs us. And so I think that is how I would answer your question. Providence is committed to being in places where the community needs us.
And you're also one of the largest employers here.
We're the third largest employer. We are
So-
here in Seaside. As I shared this similar update at the Cedar Board meeting last week, Susan Penrod acknowledged of her students, 50% are on Medicaid. And so I think that is one way also for us to be thinking about the impact of these cuts, is how this is going to be affecting the families in our community and the children in our community.
So I'm already seeing Medicaid-funded agencies feeling the effects of the cuts. Caretaker agencies are already in this county firing employees, thus reducing the services some of our local neighbors are getting. What kind of timeline are we looking at for the restructuring that you mentioned, that the patients coming in would be seeing a cut to services or different level of services, however?
I think best to answer, as I've also been talking with my other hospital leader peers across the state, we've been having calls throughout the last few months asking, what are you thinking about? How are you planning to approach this? And I do want to be transparent to share that what I've heard from others and what I believe to be the truth is that nothing can be off the table. In terms of a timeline, I think that we need to be very measured in a timeline, not make decisions quickly, and be very thoughtful and discerning for any type of restructure that we would do. I can assure you that that is how we operate. But I could also answer your question by saying that we could see changes within months going forward.
I would like to add I'm going to say the voice here of the Union Health District, The Union Health District is a taxing district that includes Seaside and most of South County. The Bob Moberg, who's here, Kathy Klezak, who's here, Donna Benefiel, and I are all elected officials on the Union Health District Board. The Union Health District, the taxpayers of the Union Health District, own the land and the building that Providence Seaside Hospital operates. And the Union Health District Board is working closely with Providence. We have a contract in place for Providence to run the hospital into 2035. And so there is also the protection of taxpayer assets in this whole picture. And that protection lies in the maintenance of having a hospital in our town.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Rebecca.
Very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Next item is our boards, commissions, and committees. We still have a vacancy on the Airport Advisory Committee. We got an additional application from Penny York for the Parks Advisory Committee. One note I would make is that it says she's only lived in Seaside for 6 weeks, and we generally only accept after people have lived here a year. So what's the council's feeling on that? That she would need a nomination.
I have talked to Penny, and she is she's been a city councilor. She sits on a college board. There's a lot of things, and Seaside is not a new place to her. We don't have a rule about having to live here a year, and I would like for us to interview her. When I moved here 23 years ago, I wanted to interview for my ideal board. I wanted to be on the library board, and I was told on no uncertain terms, you can't do that because you haven't lived here a year. And later found out that that in fact is not a rule. And I think that if we have valuable people, we should give them the opportunity to interview for what they're interested in.
I would move that to nominate Penny York, that we interview her and we close the opening to future applications.
I'll second that.
It's Councilor Pasulski and Councilor McVeigh. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We interviewed Sandy Ward, so we will keep her in mind for the next one.
It's okay. It's all right.
We'll take a short adjournment. Okay, we're returning from that short recess. We are on vacancy for Planning Commission. We interviewed Kevin Hyder tonight. What is the council's preference?
I would move to appoint Kevin Hyder to the Planning Commission.
Second.
Council President Morrissey and Councilor Binnicker. Any discussion? I think he's a good choice. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Tough job.
Yeah. Okay, unfinished business tonight. Ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance of the City of Seaside, Oregon, repealing and replacing Chapter 152 of the Code of Seaside. Jeff.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. We're back tonight to talk about our floodplain development code and the latest and greatest from FEMA. Fortunately, I can say FEMA has contacted us. As of late last week, we got an email. That email said they're extending our deadline from July 31 to the end of August. And that was it. There wasn't anything else. There was no name person on there. It just said Region 10. So we're back tonight with the development code and the options that were laid out to you. I believe the city manager gave the presentation at the last meeting, kind of went over where we're at. Not much has changed other than that deadline has been extended. So the option is still to table this whole situation, and we can wait a couple more meetings and kind of see where it plays out. We've also got the option to pass the state's model floodplain development code, leave the pre-implementation compliance measures out of it. And if that becomes a requirement at a later date, we can always come back and modify the ordinance again. So again, the staff report has the options, has the potential consequences outlined in it for each option. And staff didn't necessarily make a recommendation as to which option the council should choose. Again, they did extend our deadline for the PICM requirements. So we do have the ability to push it off again a couple more weeks if the council wants to.
Did we ever do a reading? Did we do a first reading without the pick'em stuff? I thought that's what we
have done 2 readings just by title only. Since the pick'em items were in there, they're automatically included.
Okay.
That is our main question now. Do we just say, amend that for this time and say we're dropping all the pick'em items, just adopting the model code? And Spencer's gone now. What he told us last time, what he told us last time was that unless we feel otherwise, that is not a major change because we're just adopting the model code for what the state says it should be. Leaving the pick'em stuff out to be added at some future date is okay.
But our previous readings were with it.
Yeah.
Then I would move that we would go back to a first reading without the pick'em guidelines in it, because I think that's a substantial change.
So you're saying we start over on the process with
At the first
model
one.
code?
Yep.
Is there any urgency to get the model floodplain ordinance adopted?
No, we've got time. The pick'em items were the only things that were on the clock, and that clock has since been extended by a month. By them pushing that out at the last minute tells me there's probably some things going on in the background that I don't know about that we're not privy to, where things could change to where those pick'em requirements go away. They could not. They could be modified. They could be more reasonable. I'm not privy to that information, so it's part of the federal lawsuit that's going on right now.
Does
Go ahead.
Does our meeting schedule support another wait and see table?
Unless
We'll have one more meeting in
right? We have one more.
August.
Okay, so
Or if you're wanting to consider the pick'em.
like Jeff said, there's no rush on the floodplain other than we need an update, so.
Okay.
My, for what it's worth, preference is that we just ignore the pick'em. The timing, if there's no hurry to do the model ordinance is another issue, but I'm fine with leaving it out.
I think my question for the council and for Councilor Przalski on the model ordinance, we need to do it anyways. Is there something you want to wait for? Only because we've done the.
That's why I was saying for us to do our first reading without the pick'em, because we've done it before with the pick'em twice. And so I wanted to move back to the beginning without the pick'em, drop the other
Just to
process.
be completely official and above board and all that.
I just wasn't sure if there was something else.
Can we move two separate versions of an ordinance forward like that? Because we have two readings, right?
Well, I would say, I think I expressed my opinion early on, take it or leave it, that I thought removing something isn't a substantial difference, but that's for you to decide. If you guys think, if the council thinks that's a substantial change, then go back to the first reading or go back to the second reading. But even with the definition of a substantial change, in addition to being left to your discretion, that's not anything required in our ordinance. That's in our council guidelines. And so it's really up to you. If that's what you want to do, you can have as many readings as you want. And so you get to decide if it's substantial or not.
I think it's a big enough change that it warrants going back to a first reading.
And I have no problem doing a first and second reading of it and just get back to where we were.
My only question was on the noticing. Is there, what's the noticing requirements for adopting that code? Do we have to go back to the newspaper? Do we have to do any mailings? Do we have to do, what is that process? Because that would be good to know.
So for this ordinance amendment, we did a mailing for the first public hearing, which is at the Planning Commission level, to all property owners within the special flood hazard area. After that, we notice public hearings in case the council chooses to have a public hearing on this item, 10 days, at least 10 days prior to the hearing in the newspaper. So in this instance, if the council was going to go back and have another meeting, we would put out another notice in the newspaper. And it's archaic, I know, because I don't know many people that look and read the classified ads in the newspaper for public notices, but it's required by our code.
Jeff, does was that level of noticing because of the pick'em, or would that have been required for the model floodplain ordinance?
It would have been required for the model floodplain ordinance, and that's why when we brought this forward to the council, our ordinance needed updated anyway. So let's get that up to date since we're spending the money on the public notice, and get us in line if we have to adopt the pick'em, or if we want to amend that out at the last minute. At least we're still, we're utilizing the funds for the noticing to at least get something out of it instead of nothing. So
with that information, I'd like to withdraw my motion.
I move to amend ordinance 2025-04 and remove all language associated with the FEMA pick'em and the emergency clause.
I'll second.
Was that for a reading?
I don't know.
I do a move for a third reading.
I move for a third reading of the ordinance as amended.
I'll second.
By title only.
By title only. Thank you, Kim.
So you want to remove the pick'em language and continue on to a third reading?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that the how you want to modify it doesn't necessarily need to be with I don't need to add language to a reading, but whoever makes a final motion to adopt would add that language. So that's in the final motion.
Okay.
So if you're ready, Mayor, I'm happy to read it.
Well, just a second. We haven't voted yet.
Oh, yeah. We're all getting ahead of ourselves.
I'm getting confused here. Okay, so that was Council Benneker and Council President Morrissey, motion and second, to continue on basically on the path we've been on, except removing the pick'em and just saying that's enough. We don't have to start over.
Correct.
That is my understanding.
Okay.
And this brings us into compliance with state codes.
It would definitely do that.
And best
Right.
practices.
Right. Okay, so motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Nay.
And one nay. Counselor Pasalski. Read by title.
Ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance of the City of Seaside, Oregon, repealing and replacing Chapter 152 of the Code of Seaside.
Before we move to adopt, I guess my question would be, are we still okay to approve the pick'em in an August meeting if we're required to by FEMA? Process.
That's a question I don't have an answer for. We'd have to go back through the notice requirements to do that.
Because that's what I'm confused about.
I assumed
So-
we would be able to, so.
Let me think about that. I think
I would have the opinion that we wouldn't be able to do it unless we held a special meeting.
yeah, you would have to.
We have to have two separate meetings for 3 readings.
Yeah, unless there are some emergency
There are
circumstances
some,
where you can
but
do
I
it.
don't,
So,
not sure this would fit that.
you know, another option could be we had the third reading tonight and wait until the next meeting for adoption. But I guess the question is, what does the council think something will change between now and then?
All I know is I feel like we should be ready to approve the pick'em if FEMA forces us to, and by August 31st.
So,
have that option. And that's
we
what I'm
could,
confused on how we
if
could
we
do
had
that.
to, we could call a special meeting to get that second and third reading or third reading in.
we just got the third reading in.
No, the one that would include the pick'em stuff.
That's what it did. That's what his motion was.
Jeff, am I mistaken in thinking that you still have emails? Am I mistaken in thinking that you still have emails out to FEMA with outstanding questions that have not been answered?
My last email to FEMA was presenting this ordinance that the council is considering right now and getting their feedback on it. And I never received a response on that.
My understanding was we just approved the model, the state's model code, but not the pick'em.
That's what I thought.
Your motion was a third reading with the pick'em language.
No.
I thought she
So
said.
let me clarify. I think I think at least my interpretation was we did a third reading of the ordinance as written. That includes the pick'em. So now all options are on the table, and we would be looking for a motion on what the council actually wants to do. And so, if we wanted to approve the model ordinance tonight, someone could make a motion to do just that. If we want to keep the option open to adopt the pick'em sometime in August, my recommendation is don't approve the ordinance tonight, because I think you'll then need to start noticing and have at least 2 separate meetings in August to adopt the pick'em. I personally don't think anything's going to change between now and then, but
I don't either.
that is your call for the council. So if you want to play it safe and keep all options open, I would say
Table.
we wait and have a final vote at an August meeting. If you're ready to move forward with the floodplain and don't really have an intention of doing the pick'em in August, then I would say adopt it tonight or approve it tonight.
My thought is that FEMA wouldn't have given us another 30-day extension if something could potentially change. I don't think they would have done that. So I would be in favor of tabling this and just leaving all options open.
I agree.
We're not tabling it. We're just not doing the adoption right now, taking the vote.
Okay.
So we'll move the vote for adoption to the next council meeting. Okay. Just an update, Councilor Montero's sister-in-law came and has taken her to the hospital to get her checked out. So she won't return. New business, Resolution 4073, resolution of the City Council of Seaside adopting a temporary camping policy and repealing prior camping policies. We had a work session on this earlier. I don't know how many people were here that listened to that, but I will open up the session right now. If there's any public comment anybody wants to make on this discussion. I didn't get any prearranged ones, so if not, counselors, where were we? How far did we get?
Mayor, I've got a very brief presentation just to go through the
Okay.
changes from the last one, and then I have some notes on where we left off.
Go ahead.
Very briefly, since 2020, the city has held 42 different public meetings between think tanks, forums, workshops, and council retreats to discuss the original ordinance, and then more recently this amendment. And it is being shaped by the public input we received initially since its adoption and through our operational experience. As a reminder, we are trying to comply with state law that says these rules must be objectively reasonable, and that we must provide, if we want to enforce no camping on any public property, we have to have a place for individuals experiencing homelessness to go when there's not adequate shelter available. So here were the four major areas of feedback I got from the city council, and much of this overlapped with comments that Clatsop Community Action had. First is to add back into the rules that possession of illegal drugs and alcohol is prohibited. We clarified some issues around furniture. There was a discussion of mattresses. And so this update specifies that an indoor style mattress is not allowed, but anything made for outdoor for campings would be allowed. And the main reason for this is they get wet and they do not hold up, and so it becomes a sanitary issue and a very intensive process to remove, and can be expensive, and they just don't work well for the setting. A minor thing, the original plan had a ban on blue tarps. At the council's direction, we took that out, and then we updated the pets policy to say only one per site, with some circumstances where some exceptions can be made based on the circumstances. And then we included a better definition of direct control, that animals must be under direct control of their owner at all times. We talked a little bit about this in our work session. When we talk about behavior-based enforcement, what we're really talking about is some sort of progressive discipline, beginning with warnings, then going to suspension, and then going to expulsion. So it's not a zero tolerance. You commit one infraction of the rules and you're expelled from the camp permanently, as we don't think that would be objectively reasonable, but it will depend on the violation, the frequency of violations, and whatnot, and we'll be looking for a consistent approach, but also one that escalates it. At the end of the day, the purpose is not to kick people out of the camp. The purpose is to have a healthy, safe environment for everyone, and we're looking for compliance. Again, with the right staff in place, we're looking for a trauma-informed approach to these enforcement decisions, but we'll also have clear violation categories, including an appeal process. So tonight for the council, here's the recommended motion. So far, I've got two changes that were discussed in the work session that wanted to be incorporated into the policy. First was under the possession of drugs, under the drug policy, was to remove the word however. And then we also wanted to add a rule prohibiting individuals from going inside other people's tents. I might even suggest
Campsites?
that we say that, yeah, extend that to say campsites, not just tents. And then I guess at this point, looking for any other council discussion or council feedback, council changes to the drafted policy. And as a reminder, This is a resolution. As a policy, this can be amended at any one meeting. We don't need to go through the same noticing requirements as we do for the floodplain, and it only takes one meeting. So I would rather see us do frequent updates as needed rather than pigeonholing ourselves into a policy that we don't like or find that isn't working. And so
I have a process question. In here, we have 3 possible alternatives. It doesn't have an alternative to adopt as written.
I think that's the alternatives are if you don't want to go with the recommendation. So if you go up, there's a recommendation, a requested action.
Got it. Thank you.
Has the no visiting each other's sites, that's been through the lawyers for reasonableness to enforce? Because I
When
know
you say no visit, you talking about people within the camp or people outside the camp?
Yes. And the reason I ask is last Monday I was out at the camp with Kenny Hansen while he was informing the campers there about the move. And it was one area where there was already direct pushback because it meant things like they couldn't go to each other's camps to take care of their dogs if one of them has to go to work. Or one person talked about having their mother come visit them. It's an area where if they're already pushing back on it, then I have to inherently question whether or not it would pass muster as objectively reasonable to all sides as required.
So let me address those separately. So the going from site to site, I think that's what we're talking about here is you can't go to someone's other site, and I would say uninvited or something like that, but without permission. So if you have a permit to be in the camp, you have a permit to be there, and then you can only go on someone else's campsite with their permission or accompanied or whatever that may be. So that would be included in the amendment tonight.
The part about with permission would be included.
That's what we're recommending you add to the motion to include a rule that says you can't go on someone else's campsite without their permission.
Okay.
So when it comes to other visitors from the public, I will say based on our experience with the camp, this is very, very specific that we do not want unpermitted people in the camp, period. So if someone wants a family member or a friend to come visit, they need to find somewhere else to come visit. And the reason for that is there is just no way to be able to have long lists of who is and who isn't. One of the number one complaints from the neighbors at the current site was people coming and going at all hours. A complaint from the campers in the camp were the strangers coming in that they don't know, but they're visiting someone else. And so it's pretty strict that this is a place for them to come and sleep and have shelter. But for other things they want to do to socialize and stuff like that, there are other places to do that. And I recognize that there will likely be some pushback on that, as there will with many of our rules. Mm-hmm. But I think if we want to keep people out that we don't want in there, we're going to have to cast a wide net.
Anyone else?
I know you mentioned it, but I just wanted to confirm that we're going to have signage clearly posted that display the camp rules for all the campers. So they know what the rules are, they know what to expect, and they can self-enforce.
Yeah, so we will have, they'll be given a copy of the rules. They'll be asked to sign something saying they understand, agree to abide by the rules. So they'll have their own copy. More copies will be available on site if they ever need them. And then, more importantly, not just one, but in at least more than one location within the camp, we'll have some clear rules. Maybe not down to the minutia of everything, but probably the most obvious ones that we think need reminders from a practical day-to-day. So not a technicality, but keeping your campsite clean, picking up after your pets, respecting the privacy of others, things like that. No drugs, no visitors, things like that. And so that will be clearly communicated and there for everyone to remember. In addition to that, we're just finalizing the verbiage on the signs going into the camp, that it'll be clear who is and who is not authorized to enter the Avenue V and the camp.
I like what you said earlier, that a reminder, this is a policy. It doesn't necessarily have to have every specific thing in it. And that if it does need something, we can be back as early as 2 weeks from now fixing it. I really want to move forward with this simply because we have postponed it for so long and tried the patience of the people at the current camp. So I think we have worked on this for a long time, like you said at the beginning. So can I have a motion to adopt Resolution 4073 with a couple of amendments?
Do we have to read it by title only first?
He did that the very first. We do.
Okay. I move to read Resolution 4073, adopting temporary camping policy and repealing prior camping policies by title only.
Well, second.
I think I heard Councilor McVeigh. Okay, Councilor Psalski, Councilor McVeigh, to read Resolution 4073 by title only. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 4073, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seaside adopting a temporary camping policy and repealing prior camping policies.
I move to adopt Resolution 4073.
I second.
As adopted or amended?
Oh,
With the two amendments.
with the two amendments.
Yeah.
Second.
That's Councilor Psalski and Councilor Hoffman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Related to that is Resolution 4076.
So this goes hand in hand with the new recently approved camping policy, and that is an agreement with Clatsop Community Action for to help manage the camp. The City Council approved an agreement with them back in February when it was apparent that the site was going to be delayed and it'd take a little bit longer to open. Because the contract was for 1 year, both the executive director of CCA and myself agreed to wait to execute the agreement until the camp was opening. In that interim, CCA requested some changes to the agreement, mainly because I used our template, which heavily favors the city. For example, only we get to terminate the agreement, and they thought it was right that they could do the same, and I agreed that seemed pretty reasonable. But for those who are watching, the purpose of this agreement is to formalize Clatsop Community Action's role as our contracted management entity for the camp. They will support daily operations and ensure trauma-informed, legally compliant, and community-aligned service delivery. Why CCA? They're our long-standing local partner with experience in housing and homelessness services. They have provided some good operational feedback that has shaped this policy based on their experiences with other types of shelters, and they are trusted by both staff and participants for case management and support. Scope of services, daily site administration and participant check-ins. They'll be issuing permits and tracking the campers. They'll have case management and service referrals. They'll be coordinating with the police department and public works for enforcement and sanitation. And they'll be documenting any reports or incidents. And I will say, I just want to highlight the case management. I think I can say we have already seen a significant benefit and increase from having Kenny Hansen working for CCA and already in our camp, and to have dedicated time with a dedicated office in the camp is going to elevate that level of service. Ultimately, what we would love to see is for the individuals experiencing homelessness to find resources that they need to find permanent housing, and that's the ultimate goal. And that is more likely to happen with the case management than what the current service level the city is able to provide. So if the council's inclined to approve this agreement tonight, you've got the motion in front of you.
I move to read Resolution 4070.
Could I just ask the public first if there's any public comments? Anybody here? And then council comments. I just wanted to mention one thing that then Spencer mentioned it. This is just one step, and I think a very important step that we don't have much control over, but we support as much as we can, is that there's a huge deficit of behavioral health to be able to process these and people. Class of Behavioral Health Care is our main provider, and they're just going to be overwhelmed, and that is a significant part of why people are having this issue. So I don't want to forget that. What we're doing is just a small part of what we see as a long-term process, moving from our camp into something like, for instance, Esperanza Village, and then moving from Esperanza Village to, I don't know if there's another step in there or not, but perhaps moving to the Pacifica eventually and having some help. We still have the apartments over at the Hawk's Eye that are permanent supportive care, and we really need more of those, but with things like Medicare getting cut, that's going to be even harder. Cary, Oregon is doing a great job, but they've had to cut back because they know they're losing some of their funding. So sorry for my editorializing, but it's still a big issue, and we're making just one small step here. Any other counselors want to say something before we get to the motion?
I would say this has been mentioned before, but I think this isn't a sufficient budget to give CCA the time and resources they need to effectively manage the camp, but I think it's a start. And I think Chris mentioned it's a pilot program. We'll see what works and what doesn't. And hopefully in the future, if they do need more time or budget, we can help them with those resources.
I want to second that and say that in a week there's 168-ish hours. 148 of them won't have staff there. Let's remember as we go forward that it is a pilot and a stepping off point, and make sure that we actually take that second step at some point.
It's a good start. Now you may proceed, Councilor McVeigh.
I move to read Resolution 4076 approving the agreement with CCA for homeless camp management services by title only.
I'll second.
Chris can have it. Okay, that's Councilor McVeigh and Councilor Binnicker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Spencer.
Resolution 4076, a resolution of the City of Seaside approving the agreement with Clatsop Community Action for homeless camp management services.
Councilor
Move to
McVeigh.
adopt.
Okay, Council President Morrissey and Councilor McVeigh to adopt Resolution 4076. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That's worth a bang on the gavel. Whoops. Okay, moving on. Resolution 4077, right? Yes. This is a project that's coming back to us. It looks like it must be moving ahead. Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. The Council had a discussion about this at a work session some time ago. Since that discussion, Restoration House has put plans forward to perform an expansion of their building and their supportive housing situation that they bring to Seaside there. As we've furthered this discussion of housing of all types, this is definitely a needed housing type for our community. In order for this project to work, the folks at Restoration House are asking that 3rd Avenue be vacated. As you can see, the area in red on the map is the request. That's the public right-of-way that is 3rd Avenue. Currently, there's only 2 businesses that utilize that as access. It's Hughes Ransom and Restoration House, and they both use it to access the backsides of their building, their parking areas. Water Avenue ran north and south on the east bank of the Nicanicum. It was a right-of-way that was never developed. That was vacated back in 1982. So you can see 3rd Avenue does not connect to the river. It doesn't have any public access to the river. It's all private property up to the high water line. So staff looked at this as, is there a possibility that we would ever use that as any kind of access for the public to the river? Well, it's private property. We're not going to be able to cross that without easements and cooperation from property owners. It's not a place where we would likely install a bridge or pedestrian bridge in the future. And again, we don't have that right away there. So with that, this has been reviewed by both the planning, public works, and the fire department. With their redevelopment of their property and expansion, they'll be locating some utilities underground, providing better fire access, and they're actually going to remove the building that sits over the bank into the estuary area. So with that, they'll be putting in a retaining wall and bringing their development actually out of the river system, making it more compliant with our ordinances. Tonight, we're bringing forward a resolution, and this sets the date and time for the first public hearing and requires the city manager to put notice as required by state law. When we put this together, I didn't realize we weren't going to have a second meeting in August, so the resolution will need to be amended to say the September 8th, 2025 city council meeting, and that would be the date and time that we'd set the public hearing and the first reading of the ordinance that actually vacates this street. I've provided the applicant's surveyor's work so you can see where and what this will look like post-street vacation. The northern property, half of 3rd Avenue will be assigned to Hughes Ransom, the southern half assigned to Restoration House. They'll have easements in place so that both entities will still have access for the back of their building through that street, as well as access for public safety in the city. I don't believe we have any utilities in that street. There's nothing there that's other than the access for Hughes Ransom and Restoration House that the street is used by. It's not generally traveled by the public because it dead ends right there, just a few feet from North Holiday. I can certainly answer any questions you have. Some folks from Hughes Ransom are in the audience tonight. If you'd like to hear from them about their project, you're welcome to do that as well. But again, we'll be back to talk to you more about it if the resolution passes, to actually bring the ordinance forward and have public hearings on this matter.
Okay, sure. Let's have Hughes Ransom or whoever is here that would like to talk.
Check. All right. Good. Good evening, City Council. My name is Christian Zupancic, attorney for Restoration House, who's actually the one who put this right-of-way proposal on the table for the City Council. If you remember, we had several months back a work session about this. So we have discussed some of these issues before, but as a quick primer, there is development happening there to add 8, I believe it's 8 units, right? 10 SPMI units to Restoration House. Part of that development, as Jeff mentioned, is to vacate 3rd Avenue. And a lot of this has to do with just the configuration of the building. It is going to create, I think, a lot of benefits because we're pulling We're going to take that house that's in the estuary. That's not going to be there anymore. So that should improve the environmental aspect on the estuary side. In 3rd Avenue, all the utilities are going underground. So there are going to be a lot of benefits from a fire standpoint, safety standpoint here. Ultimately, actually, Tita Montero, who's not here right now, but in the work session, she had asked about, what is the general purpose of vacating these rights of way? I can say that generally speaking, that the purpose is to relieve the burden on resources for the city, to remove liability, a lot of insurance issues. If the public generally is not using it, then it's appropriate to vacate it and to let it be used by the few parties that are actually using it. So that is the synopsis of it. I may have repeated a lot of what Mr. Flory said already, but if you have any questions for me, please let me know.
I apologize for not listing Restoration House as one of the other options for housing. I should have. Definitely.
True. Restoration House definitely has a very specific subset of residents. Yeah.
Any other questions? I noted that the applicant provided a letter from Hughes Ransom. It wasn't in our packet, but they're completely on board with this project.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
I do have a comment.
Sure.
As a matter of policy, I'm usually not in favor of vacating streets, without a really good reason. But I think in this case, since that little portion that provides access to the public to the river has already been vacated, I think you said 1982, it's been vacated. So I'm in favor of it because there is no public access, and Restoration House does provide a great service that's very needed in this community. So I'm all for it.
I think Restoration House provides the service for a very difficult subset of our residents, and what you offer is invaluable. So I think that if this enables you to do your work better, I'm all for it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I have a motion to read 4077 by title only, amended date of September 8th as the hearing date.
I move to read Resolution 4077 by title only with the date amended to September 8th for the hearing.
Second.
Councilor Binnicker, Councilor McVeigh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Spencer?
Resolution 4077, a resolution of intent to vacate certain property in the city of Seaside, Oregon, directing the city manager to give public notice and set a date of hearing.
I move to adopt Resolution 4077.
I'll second.
Councilor Pasalski and Councilor Hoffman, and this is with the change in date. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, a couple of resolutions regarding the fire department. 4078, approving the use of contingency funds. So we must need a finance director involved in this one, as well as a fire chief.
Front backup.
Smart.
Okay.
All right. Resolution 4078. If you recall, during the budget process, there was a high degree of likelihood that we were going to try to push for 24-hour schedules for the line level fire staff for a variety of reasons that you're all well aware of by this point. But we didn't have the pieces in place that neither Spencer or I were comfortable with allocating the funds within the operational budget. And so as a result of that, we put that in the contingency budget with the understanding that once we were comfortable, that we would come back and ask for those funds to be released. And we are now to that point. So we've done quite a bit of analysis on some peer fire stations and what their schedules look like. We analyzed about 8
years worth of call data to double check our schedule against that. And at this point, I'm pretty comfortable. So the staff report on this one got a little bit cart before the horse, but we've got a bit of a chicken and egg problem here, in that the funds were meant for this, but in this resolution, we're just asking you to release the funds into the operational budget. Spencer, would you add anything to that?
I think just that this is a significant change for our city, and maybe the chief can talk to this, but maybe just kind of introducing both this item and the following resolution that are tied together. The first resolution opens up the budget to allow for 2 additional staff members to be hired, and the follow-up is to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Public Safety Association, changing their shifts to a 24-hour shift, and the other ancillary changes that makes in their collective bargaining agreement. But really, the bigger picture here is that we're in the process of moving to 24-hour staffing, most of the time with 2 people deep, but a minimum of 1 person. That's a significant shift from where the city has been, and I think a pretty significant step forward for our fire department, for our response times, for our service to the community, and for any department that's transitioning from volunteer to full-time. This is a significant step. The changes that Chief Daniels has implemented at the station make the city and the department ready for this. I think we have a vision of one day having a minimum level of service that has a larger number of individual staff 24 hours a day. And I think this is a great thing for our public and a great thing for the department in terms of service delivery. So just kind of stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, this is significant for the city.
So I just like to follow up. I'd like to thank the union staff have been real helpful in this. This is a big change for the entire station. Volunteers have been real supportive. I actually have a letter of support from the volunteers. So this is something that our volunteers still do a great job. They run 300-400 calls a year. It's just we run 1,800 or 1,900 of them a year. So to have continued staffing and a better response time in the evening, I think is critical to support everything we do in the city, events. We have a lot of care facilities, so we subsidize an ambulance. So there's a lot of things that I think this moving forward is needed.
Okay. I think this one calls for public comments as well. Anybody in the audience have anything to say about it? Not seeing any. Councilors?
I really appreciate the analysis that went into it. Seeing you guys going back in the years and looking at the calls and the times and the shifts and the making sure we get this right. I really appreciate the work that went into it, and I'm glad that it's a good thing for the department, because ultimately then that translates into a good thing for residents. So thanks.
I wonder if Chief, you could share a little bit about just how in depth y'all went. I know that you broke it down into hour by hour, day by day through the week to see just where people were needed and how these things would benefit. And I know you put a lot of work, Zach, as well, into getting this done, and I think it's worth the recognition.
Yeah, I think a combination of all the staff. I mean, Zach did a lot. Spencer was involved a lot. John was involved a lot. There was a lot of staff involved. My staff next door. Like you said, we want to get it right, but we want to make sure that the data reflects the need. And it's not the first year we've done it. It's just we spent a lot of in-depth this time knowing that we could to try to pull forward and have the commitment of the council and the citizens. But yeah, there was a lot of data, a lot of agencies, a lot of schedules, how everybody else runs, how we run, all the way to what our chiefs do, what their schedules work with, and how do we keep that minimum of 2 on at all times. And we're it's going to be a growing pains. We're just in growing pains. That's just what it is. You know, if you look at articles, I'm lucky that there was an article today in the Astorian with Warrenton.
Yep.
And so if you read that, and I'm just glad that we've worked over the years and not had to go. I mean, if that article basically states they need 9 now, you know, so that's, we slowly got there, and we worked over years to build this up and not have to just put 9 on right away. That's a tough adventure, and I support them wholeheartedly because they are busy, but they're volunteers. I mean, again, they're a busy department and they run a lot of calls, but I get so much from the volunteers. They have lives too. So we recognize that commitment and working with the volunteers and still being very active. So yeah, a lot of time on all ends in the city.
I appreciate the fact that this has been a longer process. You may not. I mean, you may have wanted it earlier, but I think we have shown, you know, on a lot with leadership of Spencer and Zach to, okay, can we afford it? How can we afford it? Going through the budget process and, you know, over the years even, and finally getting to this point saying, yeah, this is what we need. This is what's going to work. So kudos to all of you staff people that were involved in this. I was glad you didn't ask me to be part of it, because that's a lot of numbers. And again, working out to figure out how you're actually going to set these shifts and who's going to do what. That'll be fun too. Finding out what works for everybody, and everybody taking their turn for the parts that maybe aren't so good. Yeah. My son has been involved in some of that, so I hear about it.
I would just say that the retrofit and upgrades at the fire station, I believe, were probably necessary to make this a reality. And so it has been a long process to get to this point.
It has. And I mean, like I said, the community support, and I think that as we go through the budgeting process, it's tough. I mean, a lot of us, we're competing. I mean, that's really what it is. And there's only so much to funds everybody wants them. But I appreciate, and I know our department appreciates all the like the seismic grants, but there's stuff that's been put into it many years coming, like the retrofit. So
I would move to read Resolution 4078 by title only.
Second.
Council President Morrissey, Councilor Binnicker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Spencer?
Resolution 4078, a resolution of the City of Seaside, Oregon, approving the use of contingency funds in the Public Safety Fund for Seaside Fire and Rescue.
Motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Councilor McVeigh and Councilor Hoffman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you.
Part 2.
Guess I'm in part 2 also.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for this.
Oh. Related to moving to full-time.
Yeah, part A goes to part B.
Yes.
Are you going to go into this, Spencer? You want me to go into this?
Well, I think my last introduction did that. So but this one is the update to the not the update, but it's approving the memorandum of understanding with the Public Safety Association, and Jay's here to represent the fire part of that. Just as a reminder, our association includes fire, police, and dispatchers, and so turn the time over to them to explain how these shifts work.
I'll go, Jay. Thanks.
Sure.
Like I said, we spent a lot of time, probably well over 6 months, going over different shift schedules, working with the union members. They spent a lot of time. They know me well enough that they're going to have to bring me a lot of information and tell me how it works, what it costs us, and all that. So they chose a 1-3-2-3 schedule. It's actually a fairly new schedule that's out there. It's going to work, I think, really well for us to cover the evenings, especially if someone's off. But again, this is a culmination of not just the city telling the firefighters what they're going to do, is the union coming and giving us, actually creating a lot of these forms together. And there was a lot of pros and cons of, this is going to work, or this isn't going to work, and going back and forth. And we settled on I think, a pretty good agreement.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah, in fact, I think we started out with a 4896. I'm sure you guys have heard that schedule thrown around for a while. And I believe the 1323 was a Portland schedule that was thrown out. It hasn't been around as long, but it seems to be a really good fit for everybody.
There's not a lot to it. It's just it's the agreement.
We're just all
so.
agreeing, yeah.
Right.
We have something here, again, public comments. Anybody wants to say anything, here's your chance. Councilors, do you have questions?
Both sides happy?
Representing the union, everyone is happy.
Management?
We're always happy.
My only question on this, given the current level of services that you guys provide, how often would you see that typically that a firefighter wouldn't be able to get in some sleep or rest during a 24-hour shift?
I think that's why we looked at the 1323 schedule instead of the 4896. So there was a work-rest ratio. I don't think we're going to have an issue, but again, we've all agreed to look at it if something doesn't work in the next year, 12 months. But it's all new to all of us. But I think it's probably after discussing, it wasn't just discussed with our agency. We talked to a lot of big agencies, small agencies, and asked what's the pros and cons, all the way down to how much sick leave did you use, how much vacation's being used, how long are these people out, So after getting all that, the 1323 seemed to be the best fit even for the city as far as not losing personnel very often.
Okay. May I have a motion?
I move to read Resolution 4079 by title only.
I'll second.
Councilor McVeigh and Council President Morrissey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Spencer?
Resolution 4079, a resolution of the City of Seaside, Oregon, approving the first,
Yep.
That's been amended. Resolution 4079, a resolution of the City of Seaside approving a memorandum of understanding to the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Seaside and the Seaside Public Safety Association to implement a 24-hour shift schedule for firefighters.
Thank you.
Move to adopt Resolution 4079.
Second.
Councilor Pasalski, Councilor Binnicker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. There you go.
On behalf of all of us from Seaside Fire, thank you very much.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for stepping up earlier too, you guys. Okay, we have a discussion to talk about setting up a committee to talk about what we do about the illegal fireworks. Do you have anything to say, Spencer? I was going to let Councilor Pasalski
No, I think I'd let him
recap it
lead.
since he led it.
We've had many discussions about fireworks, most recently whether or not we were going to continue funding for the fireworks show. We've had lots of pushback. It was a very close vote, and people are concerned with the negative effect of the illegal fireworks happening within the city limits. I did a little outreach with the police lieutenant down in Lincoln City, where they've had outlawed fireworks completely over the last, this was the third year. He said that the results that they've had in the type of people that were coming and the type of calls that they were having to deal with has improved immensely. They've had a lot more families come in. They've had a lot less violence calls than they had previously. And I think with all of the feeling and emotion against the negative effects of fireworks, along with the ability for us to improve the experience here in Seaside, it's time for us to make a change. I love the Seaside Fireworks Show. I want to retain the Seaside Fireworks Show. But in order to do that effectively, I think we need to really make a concerted effort to remove the illegal fireworks from the beach so that the negative effects of fireworks are limited to the fireworks show itself, and we can figure out another way that people can entertain themselves on the beach waiting for our fireworks show. And I think we would draw many more people back to our beach that just don't feel comfortable bringing their families to the beach with the unrestrained use of fireworks on the beach that currently occurs. So my recommendation was for us to set up a committee to determine what the best method for having that move forward. Some of the ideas are to have much higher fines for illegal fireworks on the beach, so we would have to change our ordinances to accommodate that. Develop a strong communication strategy about these changes in the fines and the intense enforcement that will need to occur to have this work. Probably some funding from the city to have that enforcement on the 4th of July for at least a few years until the word gets out, to help prevent the access of those fireworks to our beaches. And then the partnership with our law enforcement agencies that come and help us to help enforce that, and hopefully over a few years make it a much easier job for them to manage the 4th of July in our city. That's all I have.
Okay. So the focus, you've listed 4 items. We're not saying we would necessarily be limited to those 4 items.
Absolutely. That's why I want to have a
Something else
committee.
comes
I want the input from the public. I want input from police department, fire department, the Chamber of Commerce, who puts on the fireworks show.
Sure. Sure.
There's a lot of stakeholders involved in the fireworks show that I think should be involved in this committee to come up with the best practices as we move forward.
Right.
David, do you envision, when we're looking at these 4 things and talking about scope of the committee, my sense was that you want a focus on illegal fireworks, or that is really the focus. 'Cause
Absolutely.
my fear is, without some boundaries, this could get very broad, right?
Well, when you look at the laws, the state parks already prohibit all fireworks on the beach.
Right.
So it's not like we're creating new laws or new restrictions or anything like that. But we've always taken the position that it's too big for us to do anything about. And I don't think that that's accurate. And so I think it's time for us to make a concerted effort to improve the experience on the 4th of July.
Can I assume that we're looking at a somewhat larger, a different scope of not just limited to, you said a few times, the beach, and not just the 4th of July and say the week before and after, when I know last night we were still having explosions between your house and mine.
Yep.
And this has been a daily ongoing thing well into the night.
Absolutely. But I do think it is a bit of an elephant that we have to take one bite at a time.
No doubt.
And if we can get control over what's happening on the beach, it frees up our police department and our neighbors and everybody else to have that communication that would be necessary to enforce the rest of it, because the police can't be in 2 different places at once.
What about the topic of the Seaside fireworks display?
I think it could be bigger. I think that there's more that we could do to entertain people.
But
If
is
you get
that
rid-
in scope of this too? Is that
I
up for
don't
litigation,
see
or is
that
this
as
this
this-
just
no.
illegal fireworks?
I see the committee simply helping to facilitate a better environment for the Seaside Fireworks Show that is still run by the Chamber of Commerce.
But we had already talked earlier that we were going to have a discussion about.
We already
whether
have, the idea would have a discussion specifically about the chamber and the
Oh,
fireworks
right.
later this year.
That's separate.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
I'm with
look
you.
at that as being something completely separate.
I agree.
The question is whether the city of Seaside should be supporting a fireworks show.
Can I say that as the counselor who's probably the most vocally against the sheer quantity and volume of fireworks, especially the illegal ones going off in town, that for me, being able to do something about the illegal fireworks going on outside of that show makes it a heck of a lot easier to compromise and go, yes, let's save the show itself. Whether we transition to another form of lasers or drones or whatever, or keeping to the traditional explosives, I would much rather deal with the 15, 20, hell, extend it to an hour if that's what you want to do of an actual formal show, than to continue to deal with months. Last year, 4 or 5 months of constant nightly explosives going off around my home. That would be one hell of a compromise, and I'd be all for it.
This is specific to the city of Seaside. We're not talking about the beach in particular. So I think we'll be talking about both. The beach is the big thing on the 4th of July itself. And I agree with David that, actually I went to it, I went down on the beach the first year we moved here and haven't been on the beach since.
Right.
Because the smoke was too much.
Well,
my wife has asthma, and
when you
we just
have
couldn't handle
people
it.
shooting those fireworks off, it eliminates the opportunity for us to bring other things like concerts and things like that on the 4th of July that could really enhance the enjoyment that day. Because you just don't want to put that equipment out there with explosives flying around you. So I think it will give us a much more enjoyable 4th of July if we can eliminate the illegal fireworks that are being shot off.
I agree completely. I would like to take charge of this committee as the mayor. I think that's something that would add a little bit of, gravitas or something, but to get a little more attention. We can only have 2 more counselors on the committee, but I know we can find a good representative of citizens, the chamber, downtown, business association, police, even our finance people, because we're paying for things too. Okay, well.
Mayor, and then I think I forwarded you an email.
And we got an email today from
Parks would like
State
to
Parks
have
would
some
like
on.
to be involved. So
Yeah?
don't count on getting any money from them. They've already put out the notice. They're going to their budget's being cut by the state as well, and their funding mechanisms. Let's not get into that right now.
I would say I think it's going to be a very challenging endeavor to stop the illegal fireworks in town due to the fact that we've let this go on so long. But at this, to the same note, I think we have to try and make an attempt that, hey, these are illegal and we're going to enforce it. I think raising the fines is going to do a lot, but it's going to take boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Not just at the beach, probably all over town. And I think maybe focusing on the beach first would probably be our first step. I'm all in favor of it as long as this is focused on the illegal fireworks piece. I think trying to do too much, you're not really going to accomplish anything. But I think if we laser focus on the illegal fireworks, at least we can have an impact those first couple of years and hopefully get to the point where we limit the amount of illegal fireworks. I'm not going to say stop, but limit.
Significantly limit, yes. Okay.
Hope that we could move towards, at least have the goal of moving towards stoppage of
Sure.
illegal fireworks. It seems reasonable.
Once you get it significantly limited, all of a sudden the people that are doing it stand out more.
Right.
Yes.
So it's a lot more obvious who's doing it at that point.
I also think, Mayor, that I think this will take a couple of years for things to change, but if someone drops a considerable amount of money on fireworks and then has them confiscated and pays an expensive fine, I think they will choose to go elsewhere. And I think that's
And if we
to that.
we advertise that well as well.
Yeah.
We're family friendly. That's what our vision statement says. You know. Okay, I'll try to come up with some committee members by next meeting.
One thing I will add, Mayor, we want to look at is we received in the last week some direction from our attorneys on some new interpretations from the Oregon Government Ethics Commission about counselors not communicating with each other. So that's a follow-up question I hadn't considered is what happens when they serve on a committee together. So all kinds of things that when one person makes a determination and imposes it on the rest of us that we have to figure out.
With
likely
that in
hold the
mind-
meetings right here and everybody will be able to watch them.
With that guidance in mind, do we need to edit the way that we get things onto the agenda if we're not able to communicate about agenda items prior to them actually coming up on the agenda?
You know, there's probably no end to the questions that this represents. Because it's really, as I've had some follow-up communications with the attorney.
Yeah, and the best thing still, as Spencer mentioned, is send it to him. And then he will contact me and we can figure out how to do this.
And I do think, and this has been most often when one counselor wants to initiate an agenda item, the most common way has been to raise it in a council meeting, look for a second, and add it to the next agenda. And that, since you're doing that in a public meeting, anyone can do that. It's only if you're going to go out talking to individual council members with I hate to say it, like a sales pitch and trying to get people on board, I think that's where they would have concerns. So that's your safest bet for now until we get more guidance.
Yeah. And just for what it's worth, League of Oregon Cities is concerned about the direction the OGEC is going. I'm sure we'll hear about it at the mayor's conference next month and League of Oregon Cities in the fall.
Training later this week.
And we'll remind people of that too. Item G, consideration of the August 25th, 2025 meeting cancellation. Are there any comments about this?
I move that we cancel that meeting.
What is the purpose of canceling that meeting? Is there a conflicting holiday or something?
To give everybody a chance, including staff. It's a great time to take vacation, but a time to just not have to worry too much about city business.
Okay.
Because it's, I say it's a tradition. If we need to meet, we will. But we try to set that aside just to give everybody a couple of weeks off.
In the past, it's usually been very close to Hood to Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people have had to deal with it that particular week.
I just couldn't find any holidays or anything listed on my calendar, so
There's
I
no
don't know if
holiday,
there's something
no.
else.
I will say it is nice if council and staff can plan for that ahead of time so you can make
That's why we've got it, a month ahead of time, just to make sure that, and if we have to change it, we will.
And you don't anticipate any pressing agenda items?
No, but if there are 24 hours notice is all we need. Obviously, we'd want to give as much notice as possible, but I think we'll keep that option open. If there were anything urgent that comes up,
even if we just need a quorum and not the whole council. But so far, that we haven't needed that in the past. And some of that is for those things that we know are time sensitive, we plan accordingly. And everything else is something like a resolution or an ordinance that, can wait an additional meeting.
I'm all for it then.
Did, we had a motion, right? A second? Somebody second it?
Second.
Yeah, it's Councilor Pasalski and Councilor Binnicker. All those in favor of canceling the August 25th meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Let's continue on, and we'll take a little break before we go into executive session later on. Okay, staff, any staff members? Hey, Chief, you want to come back?
I don't really, but I will.
Do we still have people out? Are they all home?
They're all home right now, so hopefully they stay home. But on that note, we have wildfire preparedness night tomorrow. Pacific Power's hosting it. We're hosting it, but it's presented with Pacific Power, and we'll have a bunch of information on dealing with wild and urban interface and having your residents ready and what you need, a go bag and all that. So it's tomorrow at our station from 5:30 to 7:30. Hope to see as many as will come and visit us. Let us know. Thank you.
I'll be there. Gary, hi.
I'll just follow Chief. 2 weeks ago, we had a potential disaster downtown with fire. We believe it was a cigarette that wasn't put out, and it almost caught, well, it did catch the outside of Prana Pup on fire. And I believe most are aware, but Prana Pup, Seaside Scooters, the bumper cars, that building is attached to the Columbia building, which houses Councilman Pasalski's business, 2 of them, plus Seastar Gelato. That's connected to Norma's, which has been there since 1976. The backside is to the Ashore Hotel. And then it's like 8 feet, if even that, from Sam's Seaside Cafe and Portland Fudge. So I just want to highlight that luckily a very quick thinking employee downtown started directing other people to go get other businesses, employees, as well as fire extinguishers before the fire departments got there. I believe Gerhardt also responded from looking at the pictures, but just really thankful because that would have been, I mean, besides just the loss of the building, the businesses, so much of nostalgia. People come downtown and they talk about how long they've been doing these things. So just really, really grateful for the fire departments and those employees. And otherwise, downtown's just getting through every day, trying to stay busy but not too busy.
What was the final number of fire extinguishers that you guys ended up with?
I really need to get a magnifying glass. It looks like 23 to me. So there's a picture put out in the SDDA, and I should, Mayor asked me actually to send it to you guys, and I should. But it looks like 23 fire extinguishers were pulled between the businesses around. I know Terhar's, were yours pulled? Yeah, so Tsunami, maybe Beach Day too. What?
Crabby oysters.
Okay, Crabby Oysters,
Yeah.
Times,
Up to
Funland. Yeah, so I don't even know how many. And then make sure your employees and everyone know where they are. So luckily, yeah. So it was great. I'm really, really pleased with the town for just that 2 blocks to work together. But that's it.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. Good job, fire department, getting there quickly too. John.
Sorry, a lot of buttons. Okay, thank you. Just a couple things on the hiring front. One, if you're not aware, Anna Dennis, who's been our court specialist for at least 3 or 4 years, has moved to community development to be our code compliance officer. So that opened up a position here at City Hall. So Zach and I have, we had 50 applicants for that position. We've been working through that and interviewing finalists this week. So it's a bit of a changing role. It'll be a court and office specialist. So I'll actually be supporting HR as well as court. So that'll be really nice to have some additional support there. And we hope to make a decision hopefully by September, or have somebody on board by September. And then, as you just talked about tonight with fire, we've been actively recruiting for a list, so a hiring list. So now that the budget is in motion and been adopted with that resolution, we'll have that list to begin hiring for those firefighters. So that's in nice motion as well. Thank you.
Kim, anything from you? Okay.
Just that we actually, which I guess wasn't a problem anyway, but got everybody in the downtown Portland, same hotel for first time in a lot of years.
Downtown Marriott is a nice hotel. Thank you.
Not too much, Mayor. I think we mentioned this in the work session, but maybe not during the regular meeting. Kind of as by way of announcement, the new camp will be opening up next week, and so we look forward to that. And then second of all, we continue to work with Related Northwest on the Pacifica development. Sometime in August, they will start putting some fencing in just to start securing their property. We're working with neighboring property owners on removing some of their items that have been stored. But if you see some fencing going in, that's what's happening. There are still some approvals they need to get, but they're looking to start to close on the property this fall and then start construction thereafter. So we're excited for more housing to be able to come. We want to keep moving that along.
Thank you. Heidi.
I don't have anything.
Okay. David?
I don't have anything else.
Seamus?
I do have stuff. I want to apologize for missing the last meeting. Unfortunately, I got sick between the work session and the actual meeting, and so rather than inflict that on anybody, I decided to take that night off.
Thank you.
This week I had, in fact yesterday, had the opportunity to sit down with our governor to ask a couple of brief questions. Just happened to run into her while she was visiting our city for the third time this month. So the governor likes us apparently, and was really happy to be able to have that opportunity. I look forward to seeing where that conversation goes as far as being able to comply with some of the new stuff that's being thrust upon us. That's it. I'm leaving it at that.
Yeah. All right.
I don't have anything either, just well wishes for Councilor Montero.
To dovetail off Spencer's comment, there was a constituent who brought up the fact that the baseball field that's there in the future North 40 actually stretches into the Pacifica property. So maybe you guys are probably already working on it, but I just wanted to mention that.
That came up last year, kind of last minute when we were getting ready to, I think it was when we were going out for the proposals. Mm-hmm. So we went out there with our staff and Seaside kids and met, and it's like 4 or 5 feet of the right field, like it's just slightly an angle goes onto the property that the Pacifica will be on. And so we met on site, and they have several options that really just involve either moving home base a little bit and then just tilting the angle, and then there will be enough room. And so we talked about that last year, and then when we got notice of the kind of fencing company, I sent them an update just to remind them of what those options are. In fact, I think we actually have, maybe Jeff put it together, someone else, we actually have some, looks like engineered drawings of how it would fit. So it can be shifted and kept there, because we want to stave off any panic of people that think baseball was going away. We'll still have baseball there until someday we have a whole new facility. So we look forward to that.
Thank you. And then I have coffee with a counselor Tuesday, August 5th, 9:15 at Seaside Coffee House, and anyone's welcome to chat.
And stick around and chat with the mayor at 10 o'clock.
I usually do.
Occasionally do, yes. I appreciated Spencer sent out the notice that we got $70,000 to help with our drinking water source protection Great job. I know if Tom Horning's listening to us, he will appreciate us. The whole focus that we've had recent years is that we move away from harvesting our watershed to pay for things as opposed to going out and finding money like this. Only update on lodging tax is Clatsop County's back to considering an increase of 2%. They don't want to, but they feel like they have no choice. There'll be a work session scheduled soon. We mentioned we had some Alyssa here from the county 2 meetings ago about lease to local funding. This idea of converting short-term rentals into longer rentals. Care Oregon, who basically facilitates that, we were hoping could facilitate the grant so that we didn't have to pay anything, has been hit again due to Medicaid cuts. And so we don't know if they're going to be able to fund this. Save the date, there's going to be a housing summit on September 22nd in Astoria. It's all day long. You should have time to leave it and get to work session because that's a council day. Tomorrow, the chief mentioned the fire preparation. And then on Thursday night, 5:30 Convention Center, we have update from Patty Mulvihill, Executive Director of LOC, on the various laws that involve control what we're trying to do with our homeless camp. I have no idea what the president's order regarding moving all the homeless into somewhere else means. I don't think anybody else does either. So for tonight's quote, this is a good reminder. We've shown it here tonight, and I think this is something we do well. It's from a guy named H.E. Luckuk, emphasizing the power of collaboration and teamwork, not trying to do something on your own, but everybody working to the same goal. Quote is, "No one person can whistle a symphony. It takes a whole orchestra to play it." So not on our own, right? We're going to, let's give ourselves until 8 o'clock. We're going to recess into executive session. And at 8 o'clock, counselors can get up and walk around. Where's the thing I got to read? In accordance with ORS 192.6602I, to review and evaluate the employment-related performance of the chief executive officer of any public body, a public officer, employee, or staff member who does not request an open hearing. And we will come back and have further discussion afterwards. We are recessed until 8, and we'll meet in the conference room. we have returned from our executive session discussing our city manager's review. I created this summary statement, and I meant to ask you in there, but I didn't, so you can tell me if it's okay or not. The City Council has met and reviewed the third year of Spencer Kyle's work as Seaside City Manager. Spencer has continued to keep up our forward momentum, prioritizing, designing, and implementing plans, programs, and procedures to keep our city operating smoothly. Continues to utilize his collaborative approach toward assisting us in making progress on the Council's strategic blueprint, which brings positive changes that will enhance city services and ensure the well-being of our community. We do encourage him to further develop the skills of his department heads and delegate more of the time-consuming responsibilities to them. Seaside City Council continues to give Spencer high marks for a job well done, and we look forward to what the next year brings. Does that sound okay?
Great.
Okay. Official statement. We do this in public session, and this is the same format I used last year. Contract language that we have a special, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but we have a contract with Spencer, and I think it's, I guess I didn't write down what section. Contract language says within 60 days of the anniversary date of this contract, which was June 27th, 2022, quote, may award up to at least the average across the board increases granted to all other employees of the city. So each year we assign a cost of living increase, and I get this from our HR manager, and this year's increase is 2.26%. And we have the option of adding a merit increase, and I am proposing making a motion that we do a 2.5% increase to give them a total increase of 4.76%. Down below that shows the top level city pay schedule for category 55, and that's the range for those steps within there, each step being a 5% increase. So that's effectively the merit increases, right? John, you can jump in here anytime I'm not saying something right. Those numbers are straight out of the budget book. They're listed in there for every category we have. Out to the side over here, it shows how that relates to category range 55, just as a matter of reference, whether you think that's important or not. In my past experience in corporate world, the CEO of corporations usually made 2 to 10 times more than any, whoever's the next level of department heads. City managers are a different type of entity. They wish they could be corporate like that and perhaps make profit sharing and all that. Unfortunately, city managers don't get that. Well, anybody in the city doesn't get that. Sorry. Yeah. So that's, and then down below are some numbers from a population study. Right now, the Lincoln City number, actually, there's nobody in that job. So they're going to have to hire somebody new. Likely will probably be more than that. You got Florence, Brookings, Warrenton. They just had an issue where they had to increase the city manager substantially because some of the people working under her were making more money than her. And that's not something that should be, in my mind, the case. And then Seaside is listed down below at his current range. The only question about Astoria, the 182, I believe, was his higher rate. And I haven't found anything since then. He was hired in 2022 as well. So I just made a guess and say if you just did cost of living, he would be now over $200,000. Slightly larger town. So I'm giving you all that information, and I'm making a motion because I believe 2.5% of a merit increase is perfectly fair for the amount of work he's done for us. And looking for a second so we can have further discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay. Now we can have discussion. Or is there no discussion?
Well, I would only say that my only concern is that I don't want to move up too quickly so we don't have more room to move as he continues to perform well. So I always want to, I never want to hit that ceiling. I always want to leave room, kind of that carrot, so we can continue to push him to perform at the level he's performing. And I think he is doing an amazing job.
What is the ceiling?
There is no ceiling.
Oh.
It's whatever we decide it is.
I would say the ceiling is what the public would think
perceive,
is acceptable in my mind.
So this city
And just for reference, I picked the 2.5% because that's the average of the prior two increases.
Okay. This city pay schedule exempt 55, so that's for all other city employees that are not hourly?
It's the top range. There are a lot of other categories.
Okay.
Numbers below that.
Yeah. Councillor Hoffman, I think our ranges, this range that you're looking at is the top exempt range. However, there are exempt range that go down, that begin at range 49. So if you bump that down, and then our non-exempt ranges, I believe, start, I don't know that we have any at range 30. We have a pay scale that goes to 30, but it's around 34 that I think our lowest range is at present. So
how many people are in?
The one that's listed there?
Yeah.
2.
2 people.
Our chiefs.
Okay. The 2 chiefs, okay. So
Longest tenured department heads.
The city manager is not included in that group.
No.
Correct. It's a
The
separate
manager
contract.
has a completely separate contract. He's our only employee, so to speak. And we have a specific contract with him that was signed June 27th of 2022. And by the way, we have had some discussions that we possibly should review that. Spencer's open to that. And maybe set what these schedules would be, like Seth is saying, so that we know what is coming in the future.
I agree, because if you had 1 through 5 steps, you'd already have predetermined bumps.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. And you know, this, for instance, as references, exempt 55 goes up every year by the cost of living. So
Ideally, these ranges are in our salary schedule are based upon merit increases. They're not just handed out. That's ideally.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, COLAs are becoming far less common in local government anymore. So I think I think that's great that we offer that, and the combination of that makes, with what you're suggesting, makes me feel good about the increase.
What are we using to determine COLA?
It's the CPIU Class BC West Index.
Horribly unreliable index. Yeah. Is that the same one used for that Social Security uses for payouts?
I don't know where it's used. I know that. So
This is the
it's the one that was it your first budget cycle? So previously, generally speaking, all of our contracted employees, so either in the Employees Association or the Public Safety Association, have predetermined COLAs, either hard set or based on an index. But the non-exempt, or the exempt employees historically never really had any reference. And one of the things that Spencer and Zach did in the budget process, I believe in 2023 23-24 was talked about having something that the budget committee could say, hey, yeah, we give us a guide. And so they chose that as the guidance in that budget process, to use that index.
Okay.
Right or wrong, that's the one that was selected.
Based on the feds haven't updated their standards for what
Gotcha.
they use to determine COLA for decades, to the point where it's hardly relevant at this point. Oh.
My understanding is this one is specifically a Pacific Northwest index looking at Washington, Oregon cost of living. So it's the most precise to our region, and that's why it was chosen for the employee association contracts.
Well, if you're happy with it, then I'm happy with it.
The unions are happy with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Spencer, do you want to say anything?
No, I appreciate the comments and the feedback, and I think in an email to the mayor, I said, I want to make sure that, we're all comfortable with this, and I certainly do not want to be the highest paid city manager out there. I don't want that kind of attention or target on me, and so, my main thing was, I want it to be fair and competitive, and, I'm here because I enjoy the city and enjoy the work, so I appreciate the feedback today and the consideration from the council.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. And we are adjourned.